what makes something worth doing? This is something that I've been pondering about lately, and it's why I've had to take a step back from certain things, specifically training Muay Thai, and even I trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the past. And the reason that I had to was I have a lot of things going on right now. I am pursuing the podcast. I am working on a startup, and I have my other companies. On top of that, I work out multiple times a week, about 4 to 5 times. I spend time with my girlfriend, with my family. There are just a lot of things that I am prioritizing over that. And it was a really hard decision. And that's not coming from that it was actually a difficult decision. But I get in such a mode of trying to pack my days full of stuff, I think I tend to think of it as I'm in some way maximizing my time. I'm getting the most out of my day. But what I've realized is when I cram my days packed like that, when I split myself off into so many different ways, I end up being less productive, less efficient. I don't find myself staying on task as well. For example, one of the problems that I realized I was having was Muay Thai would be at 5:30 or 6:30, and I typically enjoy doing things later in the night. It's when I'm my most creative. But not only that, I get really locked in on certain things around, I think, 3:30 to 4. That's when I kind of have this intense focus. And sometimes it ends around 6:30, but sometimes it ends at 8:30, and I just can't stop. And so having this activity that was within that time frame was kind of barring me from completely focusing and giving my undivided attention to things that I feel are moving the needle and moving me forward. And I realized that specifically because when I was going to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I was training for a tournament, and I was kind of prioritizing that over other things for a moment. And then after the tournament, my gym actually got shut down. And that's when I was grinding on my startup. I was moving it forward. I was staying at the office until 8 p.m. consistently, just clocking in a lot of time. And, I think I've just realized more that I need to prioritize what I'm prioritizing in the long term. As much as I love the health benefits, the protection benefits as well of training martial arts, it's not a long-term goal. It's not what I'm planning to make a career of. It's not really anything of that besides a hobby that keeps me in shape and is allowing me to protect myself better. But in the grand scheme of things, I now have around 2 years of martial arts training. Still nothing in the big picture. I'm a bigger guy. I'm in great shape. I feel very confident in myself in terms of my ability to protect myself and my loved ones. So that's where I realized, okay, it's probably perfectly fine to take a step back so that I can prioritize different areas of my life. And that's how you know when something is worth doing. When it's something that you're okay with sacrificing other portions of your life. I think a good way to imagine this or think of this is, what are you willing to sacrifice to add that new activity, that new hobby, that new skill into your life? If your days are already full, most people's days aren't very full, but assuming that your day is full and you already work out, you already have a job, you do some other thing as a hobby. Now you're trying to learn to play the guitar, you're trying to learn to play the piano, you're trying to write a book. There's something there that will likely have to be sacrificed to be able to fit that in. And prioritizing, knowing what your priorities are. If, for example, you were just doing Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a hobby like I was, and you're now trying to write a book because you want to be an author, maybe it's perfectly fine for you to sacrifice that hobby for your long-term goals. We need to get away from this more is better mind frame and realize that less is more. That's a very true statement, because it's really hard to have your attention scattered in so many different ways and maintain efficiency and effectiveness. As much as I wish that I could say I'm as productive when I'm, going to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, training, running 3 miles a day, showing up, working on my company, working on my startup, and writing and doing the podcast, I'm just not. There's going to be a sacrifice there. Whether I'm sacrificing time with myself so that I can no longer be able to absorb and reflect on things, or I'm going to be sacrificing my relationships that I have going on in my life. So there's a give and take there when you're an already busy person, but there's also a give and take there even if you're not a productive person. If you're someone that has been spending too much time watching Netflix, spending too much time on social media, getting into the gym, you're going to have to sacrifice some time that you would otherwise spend on social media or watching Netflix. So something's worth doing when it's a priority that matters to you in the long term and that you would absolutely sacrifice other portions of your life for. So if you follow me on Substack or Twitter, you'll see that I post these kind of short notes or tweets every now and then. And they're typically thoughts I'm having throughout the day, something that I realize, something that I'm putting into perspective for myself. So please drop a follow. Josh Cerejo on all my accounts. Give me a follow. Interact with me. I'd love that. I enjoy answering questions or asking questions to other people as well. So this idea kind of popped in my head while I was walking the other day, and I see all these people on social media pretending to be someone that they're not. But the idea is that people will hate you whether you're real or fake. So you might as well be hated for being yourself. We tend to have this inclination to wear this mask, to pretend that we're someone else. Whether or not that's just every single time you're out in public, or whether or not it's changing depending on the friend group that you're with, or just the people that you're around in general. It's like this chameleon effect. I know that I've seen it. I've always noticed it since I was a kid, that you'll have this one friend, or maybe it's even you, that when they're with your friend group, they're awesome, they're super friendly, super nice, you guys have all the same interests, and then you try to talk with them when they're in a different setting, in a different environment with different people, and it almost seems like you don't know them. And there's just this tendency to want to be liked, to act in a way that you think is most likable. And I don't think that it's really a reflection of yourself in the sense that you're unlikable or that you've been unsuccessful getting friends being yourself. I think it's more that it reveals that you're actually insecure about yourself. Because when you're pretending to be someone else, when you're lying, when you're acting interested about topics that you actually have no interest in, you're doing that to cover up who you actually are. And that's because you're likely insecure of who you actually are. And unless you're someone that has massive character flaws, there's nothing wrong with being yourself. And I think you'll notice that the people that you enjoy spending your time with the most, they are authentic no matter who they are with, no matter what environment they're in, they are them. But, and we also see that with the people that we watch online. Specifically, I love the podcasters that I think are the most authentic. That when you listen to them, you get a sense of who they actually are. There's never an episode where you listen to them and you're like, whoa, that doesn't seem like who he was, a couple weeks ago. We crave authenticity, and we crave it in others specifically, and yet we're too afraid to put it out into the world ourselves sometimes. And I think it's just because we're insecure about ourselves. And the truth is, there's always an audience for you. There's always a friend out there for you that is going to like you. If you're, trying to be a podcaster, trying to be a writer, and you're trying to find your thing, just be yourself. I think they say 90% of the internet are consumers. The other 10% are the creators. There are a lot of people out there that can watch your content, that will consume your content, that will want to listen to you. And going back to my tweet, if you're going to be hated one way or another, you might as well be hated while being yourself. Because maybe your thing is that you're a huge Pokemon fan, a huge Roblox fan, but you also go to the gym and you also like to party. Hey, maybe you can build an audience that has some of the Roblox people, has some of the gym people, has some of the partiers, and maybe you introduce the Roblox people to the gym if they haven't been to the gym. Maybe you introduce the gym people to Roblox and to partying, whatnot. You're building an audience and a community around your interests. You're going to be able to introduce them to new topics, to new things that they've never thought about, things that they've never experienced. And so it's just about being yourself. And people can sense when you have a genuine interest in something, that you're pulled to it. And so getting away from this idea that you have to pretend to be someone else, you have to act like someone you're not, to make money, to make friends, to get whatever popular online, it's just not the way to go. You'll build a bigger audience, a more loyal audience. You'll build better friendships, better relationships in general. You'll be happier with yourself by being yourself. Don't ever water down who you are to try to appease other people when there are people out there that will love you for you. So this next one is something that I came upon earlier this week. When I was feeling like there was just this big weight on my shoulders. I felt the pressure closing in on me. I felt that I was tied up in these obligations that I made previously, feeling like I had to keep obliging. And once I kind of broke free from that and I actually made the decision, I solved the problem that I had been putting off, this weight was just lifted off my shoulders. So you're not drowning, you're just flailing around in a few problems that you refuse to resolve. Stand up and solve them. We get so distorted within ourselves. We see these problems, these things occurring within our lives. And maybe they're not having a direct negative impact on you mentally, on you physically, but they're just kind of in the background. So you say, it's okay. Like, it's not that big of a problem yet. We'll just let it go on for another month, see if it figures itself out. If it was a problem last month and the month before that, and it still hasn't resolved itself, it's probably not going to resolve itself. So when problems occur, we need to just stop putting them off and take action. I'm really good at making kind of fast decisions, calling people up immediately when things happen, contacting data providers immediately, trying to make very quick decisions so that we can get the ball rolling with my startup. I don't leave myself too much room to talk myself out of things, but there are certain problems, certain issues and decisions that I haven't really experienced much of yet. And I had an experience with that recently. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it has to do with work and someone else was involved. But needing to make these decisions that I've never made before, it opened my eyes to, hey, you put that off. You sacrificed yourself a little bit because you were afraid of being mean. You were afraid of making a decision that you needed to make for yourself, you needed to make for the company, you needed to make for your clients. And I just couldn't do it. I put it off for about 2 months maybe, and poor decision, lesson learned. Yeah. And I think I actually have another one on this. That's the hard decision is likely the one that you need to make the most, but you're putting it off. And that's just the truth. The hard decisions that I've made always end up being the most productive. We're just afraid to get started, to actually act on them. Starting this podcast was a hard decision. I'm not much of a social media person. I don't really like putting my face out there, my voice out there. I get a little bit worried about sharing my ideas as well, my experiences. But I realized that for what I want, I have to do it. I'm on this path where I want to learn and experience as much as possible. I want to grow into the best person that I can possibly be. And to do that, I need to share my ideas. I need to refine my ideas. I need to question them. I need to talk with other people, which I hope to do soon in the future. I need to listen, ask a lot of questions, and evolve myself. And I want to do this in tandem with my business because I am an entrepreneur at heart. I am not very risk averse when it comes to, going out on a limb a little bit. So I wanted to run this podcast. I wanted to have multiple companies and start the startup. Things will change as things speed up more. But that's just who I see myself as. And when I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. I see myself as someone that enjoys those things. I see myself as someone that's masculine, that wants to continue to grow into a better man, eventually into a great husband, eventually into a great father. And to do those things, I want to be the best businessman that I can be. I want to be the best person that I can be in general, by learning things, by contemplating my emotions better, having more reflective time with myself. And that's what all this is. And so it was a hard decision, but I knew that it was for the best for me. And we got to make those decisions sometimes. Moving on then, it's easy to think yourself into inaction, worrying about something that hasn't happened yet and might never happen, is a waste of energy. This is another thing that I do all the time. I am an overthinker. I consider every possible way that something could go wrong. And I've gotten so much better at it over the past 2 years, where when I think something and I have this idea, I just start. If I run into problems later on, I'll figure those out. But sometimes, particularly in the late of night, when you're sitting on the couch actually trying to relax, you all of a sudden start having these thoughts, worrying about what you need to do tomorrow, worrying about what you need to do next week, worrying about how the things that you're planning on doing a year from now might actually be stupid ideas, and blah, 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 blah. And you try to talk yourself out of stuff. These worries and fears that you are creating, and, really, you're kind of manifesting them only for yourself. They don't exist in reality. You're just creating them within your own mind. And you make them into something that is so real, because now you're going through the day just constantly thinking, man, if I don't get this data provider, then we need to go get the data ourselves. That's going to cost more money. If I don't hire this new person, then we're not going to be able to do this, and we can't onboard this new client. And we need to get out of this mode of, man, if this happens, then this, then this, then this. And if that happens, then I need to do this. Hey, just let it happen. Let it happen. You don't have an answer for it. And especially when you're in the early days on it, man, you don't have any context to base these worries off of. You have zero information. For example, with my startup, I continue to think about problems that might arise. And the problems that I thought about on week 1, on week 2, month 1, month 2, month 3, they continue to change. What was the problem in the earliest version of my idea is nowhere near the problems that I face now. And the problems get more and more complex. The problem that I was thinking about months ago was very simple. And that was because I had no information to base it off of. I had no context, no experience, even though I'm getting into an area that I do have some knowledge in. When you're doing something completely new, even if you have background knowledge, you have a background in it, you're still going to encounter a lot of new problems and a lot of information that you had no clue about before. So don't waste energy thinking about what could be, what could go wrong. The same way that you shouldn't be thinking about how, if everything goes correct, you're going to be sleeping on a yacht in 10 years. How you're going to have a penthouse view, you're going to be driving a Bugatti. Yeah, you probably shouldn't think about that stuff. Too many woods. If things go right, I would be here. Yeah, well, let's focus on reality. Okay? So these last two, they're a little bit more philosophical, and I'll try to do my best to explain. To see beyond the veil is to see reality. To no longer live ignorant to the conditions in which you exist. Will you struggle despite the overwhelming multitude of being, or will you voluntarily enslave yourself to live distracted and numb? Not trying to be Andrew Tate, but there is some truth to this whole Matrix idea. Obviously, we can see that social media, TV, the media in general has left us comfortably numb. We're always looking for this next little hit of the phone. Always looking for when we can take a second to procrastinate doing something else. Looking for this cheap dopamine that we're really just using to avoid the problems that we have in life, to avoid taking action. We like to be told what we should think. We like to see other people's lives and see how good they are. But then it completely ruins our perception of self. And we live in this, I think the people that are perma on social media, perma distracted, they also have a higher rate of victimhood mentality where everything is someone else's fault, that it doesn't matter that they decided to put no effort into their own lives. They decided to put no effort into being a better person, into their growth, yada, yada, yada. They think that they should be getting what the people that put all this effort in should be receiving. Are receiving, I mean. And that's because they're listening to what the media is telling them. And they're not even seeing reality for what it is. They see all these social media people on TikTok, on YouTube, Instagram, whatever they're on, and they see these 20-year-olds driving Lamborghinis. They see these girls that are OnlyFans models, or they dance on TikTok in skimpy clothes. They see them driving nice cars and living in nice apartments. What they don't realize is a lot of that is fake. Most of that is fake. These big influencers that have a large following, they do get good money, but they also have agents that will pair them up with other influencers to get them in a nice apartment, to get them in a nice condo. They'll rent them the nice car for their videos. It's all to create this illusion, and then everyone goes and compares themselves to that standard. Don't get me wrong, a lot of people are making a lot of money off of social media, but it's still just an illusion. They're painting this life that isn't actually real. And not only that, though, they just start seeing these people and thinking, man, that's what life should be like, and that life should be easy. And life isn't easy. You have to do things. You have to do a lot of things that you don't want to do. Sometimes life is about really just looking up, looking at the world around you, looking at yourself, looking at where you're at, looking at where you want to be, and these people that you keep seeing on social media or wherever, and thinking about what it would take to get there. Because you're not just going to get there while you're scrolling through TikTok. It's not just going to happen to you. And even more than that, what I mean by the veil, I kind of went off on a bit of a tangent, sorry. To see beyond the veil is to see reality. And what I mean by the veil, and what I mean by the conditions in which we exist, it's that a lot of us are blinded to our inability to consciously act. We are not in full control of ourselves. How many times have you sat there and thought that you wanted to go do X, and you know that X is good for you, and you know that you want to do it, and then you still don't fucking do it? That's what I mean by it. Before the veil is off, we think that we're living in someone else's story. We think that we're at the mercy of the universe. No, you're at the mercy of yourself. You are the author of your own life. You can be the hero. But instead of putting ink on a piece of paper, you need to go act. That's going to write your story. Actions, not ink. You need to get out there and start creating your story. Start creating your legend. Do you think your legend is made sitting on the couch? Eating Cheetos? It's probably not. If you want to be the hero of your own story, you need to go be that. You don't get to be the hero while watching Kim Kardashian. All right? So, once you notice that you are actually in full control of your life, you are in full control of yourself. Every single thing that you do, you allow it to. You allow it to happen. Every decision that you've ever made in your life has led you to where you are right now. And your life could be a lot different if all these years ago, all these years that you haven't been doing this, where you had so many ideas that were good, that you wanted to act on, that you knew were the best for you, if you had actually acted on them. If you had used your willpower. There's this. There are opposing forces within us that people choose to ignore. Because, yeah, you have this part of you that wants all these different things, but you also have that part of you that most of us have allowed to grow. We've fed it so much that just wants to be distracted, wants to be comfortable. It doesn't want to do anything hard. It wants to sit on the couch. It wants to skip the gym. It wants to eat ice cream. It wants you to just give in. Most of us have completely allowed that animal, that beast that's inside of our mind, inside of our soul, whatever you want to call it, we've allowed it to grow. And now this part of us, this willpower part, this part that wants more for you, that wants you to be better, that wants you to grow, is like this little tiny dog that's going up against a tiger or a wolf. Because we haven't been feeding it. We just keep on pushing it off to the side. Like, get that dog out of here. I want to eat ice cream. No, you don't. You want to go to the gym. You want to be in better shape. No one wants to be fat. If you give anyone that is obese a choice, whether or not they want to be fat or in shape, they're going to say in shape. If you give anyone the choice of whether or not they would rather, I don't know, if you give a smoker a chance to go back and never have a cigarette, he's probably going to never have that cigarette. Like, but we don't exercise this willpower to actually get the things that we want. And so we're actively opposing this part of us that knows, hey, to get here, we need to do this. And instead, we do the opposite of it. We say, oh, to get that Lamborghini, I gotta put in a lot of work. I gotta grind. You know, to get those abs, I gotta be in the gym, I gotta be dieting. To get that nice house, I gotta get a better job, I gotta level up my skills, I gotta start a business. But I can go watch Netflix. Like, you have it within you. You know what the correct answers are, and yet we actively move against it. So, take off that veil that is covering your eyes, these rose-tinted glasses that are distorting and creating an illusion of the world. It's telling you that you're okay. It's telling you that the universe is acting against you. It's telling you that all these lies that, hey, tomorrow it will happen. Tomorrow your dreams will come true. You don't need to do anything. Just let it happen. Let it happen. It's okay. You don't need to get up and go to the gym. If you just start next week, just start next week. It'll be okay. Just start next week. Oh, next week. Okay, come on. Just a couple more days. We just started this good TV show. We don't need to go right now. Let's just put that off. It's okay. We don't need to go to the gym. We don't need to start that business yet. That business idea is going to be there next month. Like, no. You need to take control of yourself. Be the author of your own story. Lastly, do you feel discouraged knowing you'll never reach your full potential? Or are you fueled by the depth of it? I think that there's a very large portion of people that are almost depressed by the fact that they'll never reach their full potential, that they know that there is no true perfection out there, that they can never be perfect. They look at someone like Michael Phelps, at LeBron James, and they go, I just don't have that in me to be that person. I just don't have that in me genetically, biologically, mentally to be that person. Yeah, hey, you might not be able to be LeBron James or Michael Jordan. You might not be able to be Derek Jeter. You might not have it within you to be Jordan Peterson, to be Joe Rogan. But you have it in you to be you, to grow and become a better version of yourself. And I think the fact that as humans, our potential is limitless is amazing. You know, people look at this idea of, oh, we can't reach our full potential because we'll never be perfect as this sign to stop, that it's not worth it, that our potential is capped. No, if you can never reach your potential, then you are limitless. Then you can do anything. Your potential is limitless. So get away from this idea of, woe is me, I can never be perfect. This is all I'll ever amount to. And like, maybe I'll be a little bit better, but I'll always just be the fat kid. I'll always just be dumb. Whatever, I'll always be lazy. You know, maybe I could be a little bit less lazy. That's how it starts. Just give in to trying to be better, trying to grow more. Because it doesn't matter that you'll never reach your potential. That's the beauty of it, is that no matter where you are in your life, you can still grow. There is still room for you to evolve. There are still bad habits that you can shed. There are still good habits that you can refine and make a little bit better. There are ideas, perspectives, mental frames that you can change, that you can alter to make better, that you can add, that you can remove. There are people that you can add into your life that are going to make it better. There are people that you can remove from your life that will make it better. There is always some sort of way that your life can be better. But it starts with you. You need to take control of your life. You need to be the person that wants to make it better. Nobody else is going to change your life except for you. You're the one that needs to do the work if you want a six-pack. You're the one that needs to meditate if you want to have more mental clarity. You're the one that needs to read all the books, take notes if you want to be smarter. You're the person that needs to talk to more people, go out on more dates, that needs to hang out with more friends, go to social gatherings if they want to talk and be more social. If you're an introvert and you want to become an extrovert, hey, you can work in that direction. Like, we really do not have limits on our potential. Whoever you want to be, you can be that person. And even once you reach this kumbaya state of inner peace, there's still this understanding that, hey, I am completely at peace with myself. I love myself. I think that I'm doing great. I recognize all the things that I'm doing. I could have been nicer there. I can do this a little bit better. You know, I'm not beating myself up, but there's still room to grow. Part of growing is realizing that you always have more room to grow. I think someone almost crashed outside. It's kind of like how the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. The closer you get to perfection, the further you'll realize you are away from it. You'll constantly realize more and more how much room you have to grow. And it's like how there's no limit to the amount of knowledge that you can have. You can grow constantly. You can grow infinitely. So find strength in that. The person that you are right now, you can be infinitely better than you are years later. The person that you are is just the starting block. They're just the foundation. And The you that exists right now is great. They're strong. They can do anything that they set their mind to. But that person's not going to exist in 5 years. That person's not even going to exist tomorrow. So you might as well move in the correct direction. Move in the way of positivity. Move in a way that's going to progress your life, progress the lives of those around you, make your community better, make yourself better. Like, you could do it. And there is a point to that. It's not pointless. You're making the world a better place. You're making the world a better place for those around you, for yourself. That is good. So look forward to that. Find strength in it. You are nowhere near your potential. You can do anything.